And Corey, your website's amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Spring Run Design, if you guys haven't looked at it, I'm not going to tell you anything more because I'm going to turn it all over to Corey. Um, and take it away. Just like I said, kind of share with us how you got started, especially for Angelique who's looking to do the same thing. So I'll turn it over to Corey.
All right, sure. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. And just doing this is kind of unbelievable. I always just can't believe that I get to talk to people about my business and what I do and everything because it's a different kind of story. How I got started, it was unique and everything because in a million years, I never thought that I'd run my own business or even do any type of woodworking or anything like that. So anytime I get to talk about it, it's kind of cool. So thank you so much. So, like I said, I never thought I'd own my own business or anything. I had no aspirations probably to ever run my own business. I was in the corporate world for 12 years. I was managing retirement accounts on the West Coast. I was perfectly happy in my job. I, didn't think I would ever probably leave the corporate world. I thought it was a 30-year man for sure. And then everything kind of changed on June 29th, 2014, when a straight line windstorm hit our family farm, knocking down 63 trees. Um, Basically, every single tree in our farm got knocked down from the straight line windstorm. I really didn't know the impact, how bad it was until I arrived the next day. And literally, all these 100-year-old trees were uprooted. It was insane. Um, I couldn't believe it. And all I wanted to do was help my dad to clear this all out because he got an astronomical, crazy bill from a tree company of what the cleanup would be. So I decided, like, well, I'm going to take a crew of people out there. I'm going to help my dad clear out these trees, do what we can. Um, and so I went out there that day, about a week later, to help clean up. And we were starting to remove all the trees and everything. And me and my dad, we were talking. We were saying maybe we should mill some of these trees um, into boards so we could maybe make a few things. And I was like, okay, whatever. My dad was a little bit of a woodworker. I didn't think much of it. Um, and then we cut into a couple trees, and all of a sudden, like I saw this beautiful grain. I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm going to do something with all this stuff. And so I was like hooked immediately. Um, and so we milled almost all those 63 trees to save. And in 6 months, we got those back, and I started to work with them. Really, I didn't have any idea what I was going to do with them. I didn't know much about woodworking. My dad did some of woodworking. He basically made bowls, but I had thought, well, I'm going to do something with all this wood. And so I started making a handful of cutting boards. I made a table for our family from scratch. I had no idea how to make a table or anything, but I was like, I'm going to try it. And so I made a kitchen room table or a kitchen dining room table for us. Um, and I was like, I'm just going to keep going with this. And so for the next like year, I spent every night in our garage creating things, cutting boards, you name it, small things, maybe a couple tables till like 1 or 2 in the morning. I had young daughters, and so I'd do the dad thing and do my job and put them to bed at 8 o'clock at night and then go back out to the garage and work till 1 or 2 a.m. and then get up the next morning at 6 and then um, going to work. And I was doing this for almost a year, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna apply to the downtown Cedar Rapids Farmers Market. So I was like, well, I'm gonna try it. And so my wife was like, well, we need a name for the business and everything. So we thought about it, and so we decided that we would pay homage to the farm and my family. And so we named it Spring Run Design, which was named after the family farm, which the family farm was Spring Run Farms. And so I wanted to pay homage to them, so we named it Spring Run Design. And so we got in to the farmers market. I was floored. I couldn't believe it. We had a few good pictures. My brother-in-law took some really good pictures, and I was just, it was amazing. I was like, all right, I'm in there. What a good side business. And before I knew it, the Gazette contacted me, and I got an article in the Gazette on my business, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm only making cutting boards and a couple tables in my garage, and all of a sudden I'm in the Gazette. All right, okay. So we go into the first farmers market and we had just tons of people buying stuff, ordering things and everything. Halfway through the season, my schedule of the spring run design business was starting to become larger and I couldn't keep up. And so my wife and I, we had to make a choice. Do I keep doing what I'm doing and just wear myself out and keep working both jobs until 2 a.m.? Or should I take the leap and, leave the corporate world and just try to do this crazy woodworking business? So we made the decision after multiple times we talked that I would leave my job and try this out. So I finally took the leap in June of 2015 and left my corporate job after 12 years. And so started on my own and started making tables and everything. And I kind of decided that, if there's trees like ours that were down, I wonder what other wood is around Iowa. And so I started talking to a couple of people at farmers markets and where's down barns and everything. So in between like lag time of the tables I was building, I was out driving around looking for down barns, down houses, down trees, anything of that sort. So I was just gathering up wood because I had a feeling maybe I might be onto something. And so I just stacked all this wood on wood and filled up 2 barns and everything. And things were going great. It was amazing. I was having a blast. I was building things, gathering wood. And then I went out to a barn site outside of Anamosa, and there was a builder from, I think the Lake Tahoe region in California. He might have been from Arizona. And he came and he took this barn down. All he wanted was the beams, the siding, the rafters, the gates of the barn, and then he left everything else, like left everything else. I couldn't believe it. And he's like, Corey, you can have the rest. I'm like, you don't want anything else? And I'm like, this is good wood. And he's like, nope, we don't need it. I was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is amazing wood and it's, over 100 years old. So I spent the next like 2.5 months out there gathering every piece of wood I could to save before the farmer or the owner wanted to burn the rest. So I was out there saving every piece of wood I could. And then I was kind of realized once again, maybe there's more to this than I thought. Like maybe I just gather all these rare and small pieces that are just kind of, people think they're junk and they're going to burn. And so then I was like, well, I'm going to gather all these branches and do everything. So I started gathering every little thing possible. And I was traveling, I was making tables, I was just having a blast. And we had a name to the business, but we never had a logo or a design or anything. And people always ask me, are you going to, have a logo anytime? You need a logo of your business, because I did a couple pieces of furniture and they always ask me, where's your logo? And I'm like, well, I don't know if we have one or if I'm going to do one. And like, well, you need to hire a graphic designer. So I was like, I just don't know. And I didn't know if this business was going to stick and everything. And so I was just kind of hesitant. And just traveling around Iowa and somewhat through the Midwest, I started to have ideas of the logo and then certain other designs. And basically, I was standing out in the woods one day at a down tree, and all of a sudden, the logo just came into my head, along with like 3 other ideas, 3 designs for shirts. And I came back that night and sketched them up, the logo, the other 2 designs for shirts and everything, and I held on to them for the next like 2 months, I think, because I was so scared to take them into a print shop or do anything, because I thought, well, yeah, these are great for me, but I was thinking nobody's actually going to buy these. And really, I just held on to them, and finally I got the gumption before next season farmers market to take them in to Red Ball Printing down in Czech Village. And he took them in there and he was floored how good they were. He couldn't believe it. And I was like, okay, awesome. And so he's like, you're going to sell these at the market? I'm like, yeah, I'll sell them. And I was nervous and everything. He's like, you really got something going. I'm like, okay. And so I sold them, the next season at the farmers market, and pretty soon we sold out of the shirts and my designs, and I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll create some more apparel. And so then I designed a couple more shirts and they were selling, and you know, it was just crazy. I couldn't believe it. So we were all of a sudden like having this little apparel too and everything. And I think the last couple markets, Bart from Next Page Books asked me if he could have my apparel in his little bookstore, and I'm like, what the heck, why not? It's a great shot. It's a chance to break into a store in Nubo and everything. So after the next season of Farmers Market, I had my apparel in Next Page Books, and things were going great, and it was selling, and I was making tables, and I was doing all this stuff, and I was just riding on cloud nine and having a blast. And I felt like the something was changing in the business. Like I was doing all these tables, and I kind of was just not. I think I was trying to be like Clint Hart, but I really I wasn't. In my mind, I was building all these things, but I just didn't quite probably have the passion. I'm starting to lose it as the apparel was growing. And then as the apparel was growing, I was doing more markets, and then I was one of the last markets before Christmas of 2017. I had a new line of apparel, and I decided, I was on the fence of doing a website, and I think maybe it was a couple months before that, doing the website. And so, as things were progressing, I was like, well, maybe we should do a website. Got the logo now, we got some apparel. My friend kind of was saying, maybe you should look into doing a website, expanding the business. And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know how I feel about that. And, I said, I'm going out to Colorado, to kind of get a break from the tables and everything, kind of just collect my thoughts and how we're going to move forward with everything. And so we were going out to Colorado that day, and my friend IM'd me, and he said, "Hey, I know you're thinking about the website. I saved the domain for you, springerundesign.com." He's like, "It'll be here for you when you come back. You just think about it on your way out there." I'm like, "Okay, sure, I'll think about it while I'm out in Colorado." And so the next day we were up in Estes Park, and we got done hiking, and my kids, of course, they're hangry and everything, you're tired of hiking and everything. So we get back to the car, and so we put the kids in the car and everything. And I told my wife, all right, I'm going to go back of the SUV and get some food and everything. And got some chips and brought back to the front. I'm like, hey, told my wife again, hey, I'm going to go back and get some sandwiches for the kids. I opened the door and I took 2 steps out of the car, and a lightning bolt came down probably like a foot behind me. My wife saw it. And I don't know how close it got to me because it was such a bright light. My wife thinks it got a foot away from me. It was like a shotgun went off, and the lightning bolt had tossed me from the front of the car all the way to the back bumper. And my knees, I blacked out in midair because of the force of it. And my knees hit so hard on the concrete that it, like, in a split second, woke me up. And I caught myself from smacking my face. My hands hit the ground, and I caught my face from hitting the ground. And my first thought was, I thought a car hit us. I thought a car literally came off the side of the road and smashed us. And then you could smell burning. And then I was like, what the heck? And my arms were shaking and everything. And I felt kind of tingly. And I got up and I checked the car. My first thing was like, check the kids. Because once again, I thought a car hit us. And I couldn't believe it. Nothing hit us. And I was like, what the heck happened? I got in the car, and my wife was like, that was a lightning bolt that came down. She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, I have no idea. And I think I'm okay. And somehow I like walked away basically unscathed. I only had a few scratches, I was like shaky and everything, but somehow it was unbelievable that I even survived. I still can't even believe it. So knowing that maybe this lightning bolt was a sign, and that stop stalling with the business, move forward. So you only live once. And so I decided, I'm going to come back, I'm going to launch this website and everything. And so I came back, I said to the guy, hey, I'm going to do this, and we're going to launch the website. And he's like, all right, let's do it. So I hired out a website company, a startup website company, to make the website. Everything was going good. I was selling stuff, and all of a sudden, like, I was pinning everything on markets and hoping the website would come up and everything, but it did. It didn't come when I thought it was. I thought we were going to get before, um, Christmas of 2017, and it didn't happen. And I was so bummed out. I couldn't believe it. And I had thousands and thousands of dollars of apparel down in my basement, thinking, okay, this is going to be the next step, and we're going to do all this stuff. And it didn't happen. And then um, all of a sudden I started getting texts and IMs from past customers that the tables I was building were cracking. They're cracking down the middle. And I couldn't believe it. I was floored. I was thinking, there's no way. How are they cracking? And I was like, I locked everything in. I was like, yeah, it's reclaimed wood, but maybe I'm doing something totally wrong. Well, I think I built 6 tables that spring, and 5 of them came back cracked. And what I had done was I was missing a little like piece that helped them float. I was locking them in thinking they wouldn't move, and this little piece that I need to help make these tables float so they can move and adjust through the seasons, they weren't on there. So I kind of realized that I made a major mistake. And so not only was my website not up, I had thousands of dollars of apparel down in my basement. The tables were breaking, and I couldn't even believe how badly I screwed up. And not only that, I was charging stuff to my business credit card, horrible mistakes. And I was just racking up so much money because I thought, okay, I'm going to move forward with this. And it wasn't happening. I was like at a standstill, and I got super depressed. I couldn't even believe how bad I screwed up. I couldn't understand why this whole thing, these storms, this lightning bolt, all these signs for me to do this business, everything, like, what did it all mean? And now I've hit like a rock bottom, and everything was going wrong with the business, 2 years in, and I can't believe how badly I screwed up. And um, I I remember January of 2018 was the worst, and that was the year the polar vortex went through. So not only did all these tables break, all this apparel was sitting in my basement, um, I was depressed. It was cold outside, and I couldn't do anything. It was too cold to work. And I said, I kind of made the decision, the business is over. It's done. I can't do this anymore. This whatever I tried to do was not working. And I hit a level of depression that I've never felt before, of letting my family down, just just letting everything horribly go wrong. Um, and I couldn't even like think. And I went out to the farm one day. I think I was dropping off a piece of wood. It was negative 25 outside, and I was out there in the truck, and I was leaving the truck run because it was cold. I dropped off a piece of wood. Well, my elbow hit the lock button, and I locked the truck while it was running out at the farm while it was negative 25 outside. And I'm like, of course, just the cherry on top. It's, I was like, this is the all time low. So I called my dad and begged him, like, please, you gotta have a spare key. And I'm like, he's like, I do. I'll come out to the farm and give it to you, because he was in Cedar Rapids. The farm was in Monticello, so it was half an hour drive. So I had half an hour to kill, at the farm. And I remember just sitting there in the cold, just thinking, this is over. It's over. Everything's over. It's done. I can't believe this. I had hit absolute rock bottom. I did everything wrong where I thought I was doing everything right. And so I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't even tell my dad when he got there. Um, and that night we ate dinner with him, and I couldn't even eat. I couldn't even do anything because I hit just the ultimate depression. And I decided that everything was over. There's nothing I could do. And I couldn't tell my wife, and I didn't even know what I was going to do. And so I was, the next morning, I was like, well, I don't know how I'm going to get out of bed or anything. And then my daughter walked over to me, and I'm going to hold something up, and hopefully you guys can read it. She wrote, says Happy Chloe on there. Happy Chloe. So she wrote that to me and handed it to me. Basically, she was so happy that I was home. I got to spend more time with her. You know, couldn't even believe like that I was around, because my corporate job, I wasn't around much. And so, you know, I got more time with her and everything. So that triggered something in me, and it pulled me right out of this depression. I said, you know what, I'm going to fix all these tables, do everything I can, get this website up, and move forward with the business. And not only will I move forward with the business, I'm going to rebrand it and do it the way I want to. I'm not going to be Clint Harp. I'm going to be Corey Helgens of Spring Run Design. I'm going to, you know, basically do more apparel, you know, switch everything around, do more of an outdoor themed, Scandinavian, minimalistic, you know, focus more on the carving aspects, where I got into the Gazette and not so much on tables and everything. So I fixed every table in that polar vortex where it was really cold. And, you know, I did it all for free, helping, you know, making sure I did things right. And I got done with the last table, I think, in March of 2018. And then the website came out that month as well. And things started to turn around, and we started selling more apparel and doing more carving and more unique things of the woodworking. And then I landed in Scout of Marion, which really started to turn everything around. And I was just kind of hoping, well, I hope I just get in and sell a couple of things. Well, Nikki was such an inspiration for me. She sold out my first lot in weeks. I couldn't believe it. I was so unbelievably happy. And then the next thing I knew, I was in SoCo for the apparel. I had pitched to Steve about my apparel, and he's like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I'll put it in there, and got into SoCo, and things were going great again, you know, and I completely changed the whole company way I wanted it to. I figured out that, you know, photos on the social media were so important of the business, figuring things out, and taking better pictures, and, you know, carving more unique things, and using pieces of wood that nobody thought anything could be made out of it. You know, where I was making spoons and cutting boards and this whole thing. And all of a sudden I had a whole kitchen line of products, and it was just insane. And so I'd started to do more shows, and I was traveling to Omaha and Chicago, and I did a show in Chicago, and one of the people that walked up to my booth was the marketing director for Farnsworth House, which is a house that was built by Mies van der Rohe, a very famous house. And she said, hey, we got this wood from the tree that Mies van der Rohe built this house around. It died. We are thinking of bringing artists to make stuff out of this wood. I'm like, okay, great. And so she's like, I think you should be up for consideration for it. Okay, awesome. So a year later, they contacted me, and they chose me to make these pieces, anything I wanted to, out of this wood. And this was spalted black maple spalted wood, super rare stuff. And so I was making spoons and cutting boards and doing all these things, and they couldn't believe the quality that they were seeing. And so they were trying to promote me and everything, and which was amazing. And then the next thing I kind of knew, I got a feature article in Dwell magazine on their online platform of the pieces I was making. And so I was like, not only you know, was I making this cool stuff? But I got in Dwell magazine. It was insane. And so it's just been so crazy. And then I'm making all these cool things and getting more stores as time has gone on, and um, everything. And it's still hard to believe. And, as time has gone on, these unique things keep popping up. And 2020 was probably more of a unique time for me because I was relying so much on markets before, and basically all the markets were closing down and everything. And um, I wasn't sure where the business was going, but more people were getting on social media and finding me. And so I got in more stores, we got more sales through the website. And one of the turning factors also of 2020, the beginning of 2020, my dad, who was a key part of the business, ended up having a massive stroke in January, and he passed away. Um, and that was really tough. And so I don't know if you guys can see it, but I wear his watch every day when I'm working to kind of remember him. And then on this wrist is my daughter's bracelets and everything they make me. So I kind of just remember him as I work and everything, because when I started the business, my dad told me that it's like, don't you quit your job, Corey. Don't you quit your job and do this. Um, and I said, well, I'm going to quit my job. And he was a little disappointed, but um, he understood why I did it. And then 2 days before he passed, we had a conversation. And one of the last things he said to me was how proud he was of the business and what I have done. So I'm trying not to cry. So it was just, that was something. And knowing that, I made my dad proud, and, you know, doing everything. And so it's been great. And um, one of the other unique things that I'm starting to do is like gonna just move forward with the business, and gonna start my own canoe paddle line and everything out of reclaimed wood. And I was kind of looking at the time here. I think I'm almost out of time, but and we're moving forward with a kitchenware line and everything on our online platform. Like I said, I'm doing a canoe paddle line for the outdoor side, and everything that I make is from reclaimed wood or salvaged wood. Um, and so also Michelle wanted me to hold up maybe some things of like what I do and products. And so this is like a piece of wood from the derecho milled. So it's black walnut. And basically I go from this and then I turn it into a spoon, if anybody can see it. And so, um, and yes, I do have tons of derecho wood, and it's waiting to be milled. And that's going to be my next thing, is working with a bunch of derecho wood. And um, you'll see lots of things be made from it, from um, you know, canoe paddles and our kitchenware line. And I've been promoting it. And it's like I said, 2020 has been crazy without any markets and everything. I've had customers come to my garage and bang on my door to get the next product line before I can even get to stores. And it's always a great feeling. And it's been such a crazy journey with this business, and I've gone through such emotional highs and lows, and I wouldn't change anything in the world for it. And I can, I get to see my daughters every day, pick them up at school or drop them off at school, pick them up, and get to work with all this wood and be outside and create cool apparel. And yeah, so it's been an amazing journey, and I wouldn't change anything for
Well, it's not often that I cry 3 times in a meetup, so
it.
thanks for that.
Yeah, yeah.
Just kidding. Um, your story is, it's just so great. I just so appreciate you sharing all the highs, but there are so many blah, you know,
Yeah,
the lows to things. And I think that it's easy to get on that high when you're passionate about something,
yeah,
and they're rolling and they're so great and they're whatever. And then, boom, you get hit with the low and you go, oh, how do I dig myself out? And
mhm,
you might have gotten more signs than I've ever gotten.
yeah,
That lightning thing was crazy.
Oh, it's crazy. I still can't believe I even survived. I should have died up there. Honestly,
Ugh,
I honestly should have died.
not in
And
Estes Park because that's one of my favorite places.
I
So
know, right? And
definitely not there.
it was just a random lightning bolt. It wasn't storming. It was a little foggy, but we're from Iowa, so we're gonna go up in the
See?
mountain
Yeah.
and everything. And we weren't thinking anything of it, and just a random lightning bolt. And then we were the only ones there. And it just happened right in front of my wife and me. Yeah,
That's
it's just been
crazy. So who taught you because you don't just wake up one day and say, I think I'll just start making things out of wood.
right.
So who was your teacher?
Nobody. um,
So you really
I
did just wake up and start making wood.
I did. Yeah. So
Oh, rats.
my dad was a woodworker, but like I said, he did bowls. I didn't really know much at all. I just had a feeling that I could do things. I was pretty good at art in high school, and I maybe should have gone to art school,
Mhm.
but I, take a different route. But um, that first year when I was in my garage, I taught myself how to carve and everything, and I couldn't afford the big equipment, so it was all by hand. And um, yeah, I just learned on my own over time, and I was so new at it. Um, there's a sander, an orbital sander. If anybody's worked with sanders, it's called a hook and loop, where you just kind of Velcro it on. I didn't even know how to do that. I glued on the first sandpaper. So I taught myself everything, and I taught like just by learning, and I do a better job of learning like just by myself, and not really following any kind of direction or anything, and just kind
Sure.
of doing what I feel like and how it flows. And yeah, I didn't have a teacher. There wasn't really one at all. But
Wow.
and that's how I think the stuff I make is unique, because I didn't follow anything. I don't follow anybody. This is kind of just all what I come up with. And one of the unique things I was thinking of too was I went to Barnes and Noble, I don't know, a couple of years ago. I picked up a woodworking magazine, and I was flipping through it, and there's these guys who are making amazing, beautiful pieces of furniture, and I couldn't believe it, and I was getting really sad and depressed, and I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, I'm not these people. I'm not a carpenter, and I'm an artist, and I put the magazine down. I'm like, I'm not like them, and and I was doing my own thing, and it was successful, and I was like, I don't need to follow anybody through magazines or anything. And so that's when I also kind of made my mind up, like, I'm not a carpenter, I'm an artist. And this is something new, something different. And
Sure.
I'm following my own path. And yeah, so I just didn't really get any help. I was just kind of on my own and learning.
Awesome. So what's the 3-year plan? If
The
you could look in
three
a you could look in a crystal ball.
So, this 2020 was a unique time. I mean, I was focusing prior to this year or last year, I was focusing on markets. Well, that all changed. So, but it's more website driven coming up. For 6 years, I'd never had a piece of woodworking on my website, if you can believe that or not. And so we're going to actually do that. We have quite a few people waiting. So in 3 years, we're going to be more website driven, um, more stores. And what I'd really like to see, possibly with the apparel, is we got accepted, or I got accepted into Fair. It's a wholesale website in California. Um, going to be working with them, and we're going to sell our apparel through them. They have access to 53,000 stores. And hopefully I can bring on somebody to kind of take over the sales of the apparel, handle that, because I would like to stay in the woodworking realm,
Mhm.
of creating things. And, the apparel I can design and create, like the designs on the shirts and stuff, and be part of that. But the daily, task of sales and packaging and everything, I'd like to hand that over to somebody down the line. So, down the road in 3 years, we're going to be more website driven, be in a few more stores, hopefully have a person or two on staff, other than my wife, who's my
Mhm.
accountant. She's a CPA, so she does all my book work. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be fun moving forward. I don't always try to look crazy too far ahead. If I do, I get too caught up on that. I try to be more present in the moment and focus on what I'm doing now.
Awesome. Anybody else have questions? Because I just keep yammering.
I actually do. So I think I might have part of the answer based on the fact that you just said that your wife is a CPA, but I know working with artists and people who create items such as what you're doing, that it can be a real struggle to figure out how to price those items. You have your time, and I recognize that some of the materials, like you said, you've donated, or you've just reclaimed or gotten for free, but still there's a value. And how did you come about, what's your process of figuring out how to price these items?
So the pricing is really hard. That's something I struggle with all the time. Number one, because 99% of the wood I use is free. I mean, this is either given to me, dropped off at our farm. It's that's the hard part. So you take the labor and everything, but how I price it is if the wood has a unique grain in it, has spalting, black walnut, maple, anything like that. If it's got more of a unique grain, um, I tend to price that more because you're not going to see a piece like that ever again. They're so rare to come about. So those are higher priced ones. I got a stack of wood that was in a barn, a falling barn, for the last 25 years outside of Tama, and it was black walnut. And the weathering and the color and the grain on this walnut is insane. I've never seen anything like it. And so that I know I'll never see again. And so it took, 40 some odd years for it to get this color. So I tend to price those, quite a bit higher. And things in that range kind of go from like, $100 to $500. So I mean, it just depends on the wood and how much time it takes to make things, and that's the hard part is figuring out the pricing. But over time, I figured out what it's worth, and the one tough thing I deal with is I'm in a few stores in Chicago, and Chicago, you're selling stuff there. Like a spoon goes for like $100. Here, it's $35, and so you struggle with that and changing the prices, and it's that's the tough part. But usually with the labor and how rare the wood is, and knowing what I have about the wood and just how long it takes like nature to make its course on the wood, and chances are I'll never see it again. So that's kind of how I price it.
That makes sense. Thank you. I know
Yeah.
it's a tough one. And then also, if you aren't selling it yourself, if you're going through a distributor or it's a wholesale to a store, yeah, it's just it's a challenge. So good. So from a social media standpoint, you said that that's pretty important, obviously, in these days. So are you doing all the posting, or do you right now, or do you have a service helping you with that? Or
I do all the social media posts. I do all the pictures now. I do all the social media posts. I work with a photographer here and there, but majority of the time it's me who's taking the photos. I do all the posting on the social media. Now I've had lots of people offer to do my social media. I had one lady, gosh, in 2019 at the Cedar Rapids Farmers Market. She worked at Harp Design Company and with Clint Harp, and she ran part of their social media. And she was like, "Hey, your stuff's amazing. I want to come work with you and do all this stuff." And she was trying to talk me into it, and I was thinking about it, but sometimes it's kind of tough to tell the story if you hand it out to somebody else. Like, I know what the pieces are. Basically every picture I take, it's a story. And so I really don't want to hand it off because it's so important with the social media aspect. Because every picture has to tell a story in a way. And I think I'd lose that. Now down the road, would I like to have a service take over the social media? Yeah, I would. But at this point in time, I'm okay taking pictures, and I really enjoy that side. So
That's fair.
Corey, I had a question for you. It sounds like if someone knows of different types of wood or an opportunity to give that to you, I'm assuming you need the space for that. So can you talk a little bit about how you accommodate or where you store that or how you are able to expand and make space for that?
yeah, so I'm pretty lucky. So we have a farm outside of Monticello. We don't farm anymore. We rent it out, but we have 2 barns, well, not 3, but 2, and I have them filled up with the wood that I've gotten, and there's plenty more room. Although the derecho wood is taking up a bit more space than I was expecting, but that's where I hold everything, and maybe we'll take over that 3rd barn down the road. But yeah, I store everything there, and then I bring it back, pieces back to our workshop here in Marion, and then I kind of mill it up and work outside my garage here. So with COVID, I'm back in our garage in the 3rd stall, which is okay. So basically we store everything in Monticello, but then I have a nice little workshop here. And so I work in my garage.
Anybody else have a question for Corey?
Well, it's a quick question. You brought up the milling. So obviously, if you're getting let's say, for example, a log in from, the derecho, a walnut log or something, have you thought from the standpoint of expansion about doing your own milling? I'm not sure if you're still sending things out to be milled. I mean, that's a big process.
Yeah. So that I've thought about it. I don't think I'm going to even go into the milling business. And that's the thing, was when people called me for the derecho, for 3 weeks, I was all over the place after the derecho hit. Being just a single person picking up the wood, I don't have the equipment to pick up these large logs. And I work more in the small, log realm where I can pick it up and mill it myself. And so I just, the smaller pieces are easier for me to get. I do well with it. I don't try to even pick up the big ones. I don't even try to mill the really large ones or anything. I've thought about doing the milling thing, but the whole creating stuff out of the wood takes up so much time. I can't imagine, having to mill the wood also. That's something I've thought about, but I don't think I'm probably going to venture into that realm.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I see your point, and that there's a lot of expense in that.
Mhm.
But on the same side, right, you're kind of at the mercy of the mills. And if you're a smaller business, you're probably a little bit lower on the totem pole.
Yep. Yeah. Even just one, like the portable mill, was $31,000 just to even get that. And I'd love to do that. And then you're looking at, you need the equipment to pick up these large logs, and that's another $15,000. And before I'm out like 30 grand before, or 40 grand before I even pick up the first log. And then you're looking at the belts and the blade. If that breaks, that's another $200, and on site can break. And there's just a lot of variables with that I'm just, at this point in time, I'm just not ready to tackle yet.
So Corey, you have to leave us with a teaser. You said you have more of a housewares line?
Kitchenware, yeah. All right, yeah.
Kitchenware? All right, what's coming? What are we going to see on the website?
Oh gosh, so you'll see everything from like really unique cutting boards to spoons to coffee scoops to there might even be a possibility of some derecho bowls coming. You'll see a lot more derecho stuff coming out. There's going to be knives. And this is all hand carved stuff. And you'll see stories posted with everything. I give the backstory on each piece of wood. And so it will be, I'm really excited for it. I've been holding on to a few pieces of wood just for the website and everything. And,
Nice.
I'm also excited for the canoe paddle line to come out, and I don't even know if I can even hold it up. So
My
this
God.
one, the canoe paddle, and this one is made from a fallen maple tree in the Regis High School / middle school bleachers. And so,
Oh my gosh.
I taught myself how to carve paddles because I was out on the river, oh gosh, 2018, 2019, I think it's 2019, and my canoe paddle broke in half. And so once again, it was another sign of like, you know what, I can make a better product. So I taught myself how to make canoe paddles, and SoCo's interested in them. I took my first round in there. They asked me to make them lighter. So these all weigh, like 3 pounds. So they're super light, easy to use, and they're just unique. And just, I was a big canoeing guy growing up. That's how I learned to be in the water. And so
Sure.
I'm excited for that. I've had a lot of people comment on it and waiting for them. And yeah, so there's going to be some really unique stuff.
So not being the canoeer, that's a really cool piece I would just use for decor.
Yeah.
Would that make you angry?
Yeah. So that's the other thing is a lot of people, when they see my work, they don't know if they can use it or if they should put it up as art. And
Yeah.
so if they have a struggle with that, that means I'm doing my job.
Yeah,
Because
you are.
Yeah. And so I want them to, basically cherish this piece. It's everything has this journey in, now it's in your hands, and now you get to pass it down through the generations to your family. And that was the unique thing I was thinking about the other day. A lot of this stuff I'm making is going to outlast me, which is kind of crazy. I had one client who stopped in, and before I was branding with my new logo on the wood, and he basically kind of yelled at me because I wasn't branding the wood with our logo, because he's like, you know what, in like 150 years or something, like these could still be around and could be worth a lot of money, and they won't know who it is. And so I'm like, all right, I'll put it on. And so
Fine, I'll brand.
yeah, so I'll put my brand on, and
Wow,
it's just crazy to think about.
that's awesome. So great. Well, thank you. Wait, I'll ask one more time. Any last questions before we let Corey go? Thank you so much. Thank you for making me cry on Thursday
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah.
And
Well,
smile and laugh and all the feels.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. I have seen your stuff at Scout, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So I can
Yeah, thank you.
attest to it. When Emily said, "Oh, check this out," I was like, "I'm pretty sure I've seen those spoons at Scout." So
Yeah, it's
awesome.
awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good luck. Wish you all the best. And thank you again for joining us this morning. Thanks, everybody else. Have a great Thursday.